For those that don't know me, my name is Winthrop Wellington, and I've had the privilege of calling Negril, Jamaica my home for the past 19 years. And over the past few days, I've been sharing with you the devastating on-the-ground effects of Hurricane Melissa on Negril and the wider Westmoreland parish. And unfortunately, Westmoreland has been one of the parishes that has been hit the hardest in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. And in my travels in the last few days, I've seen things that are nothing short of heartbreaking. And people have completely lost their homes. Their lives have been turned upside down, and they need all the help that they possibly can get. And I'm using this platform and reaching out to you, my community, whether you are brand new here or you've been with me for years. We want to try to get people back on their feet. And we want to start with the most basics of needs, which is food, water, and shelter. And how I would like to do this with this platform and with this GoFundMe is to start with the Travelers Beach Resort team here in Negril and then spread out to the folks that I know personally that have been affected by this storm. And in doing so, I want to do it in a way that there's no red tape, no bureaucracy. Literally, donations, fund support will go directly towards buying these materials and getting it out to the people who need it most quickly. And we've already begun doing that because we couldn't wait for donations. Over the last few days, my brother has literally been going out with his truck to different communities without cell service and also without a clear line of gasoline and petrol, searching for different members of our staff and different members of our team. And we unfortunately haven't got to all of them. We haven't heard from all of them, but those that we have got to, many of them are in really, really disparaging positions, and we've already begun helping them and getting them supplies, getting them building supplies, and literally sending our maintenance crews out to their homes to help them rebuild, at least so they can be stable. And the thing with this situation is that we're going to be here for a few months. And when I say here, I mean no electricity, no running water, maybe not consistent, sustainable access to internet. And in my mind, it's like, how can we set these folks up to be okay, relatively okay, for the next few months? And that's where I want to put as much support as possible. So once again, whether you've been with me for many, many years, or you're just joining this community, I'm so grateful that you're here. And no matter how small or how large, in respect to the support that you give to this GoFundMe, it's going to go a long way and it's going to make a huge difference. And what's happening right now in Jamaica is bigger than any one of us. But together, I know we can make an incredible difference. So in closing, I thank you for your time, I thank you for your generosity, and I thank you for your consideration. And let's get these folks back on their feet as quickly as humanly possible. Hello, everyone. Sunday. Had a good weekend. You guys can see me okay. Let me see. We had a late one today. There we go. Long day today. We actually had a press conference here at Travelers with JPS, and we're going to get into that, which was really cool to have here and to host him here. But it was also really cool to get some firsthand information, some I don't know, some hope, I guess, and then also understanding of like their process and what they're going through. So the CEO is here, and which was really, really awesome. And taking the time out to just kind of break things down for us. Also, I did want to get talking about the rebuilding phase that we're in and hopefully ready for at this point in time. And yeah, sorry, hope you can hear me. The sound is cut off. Talking about the rebuilding phase, kind of move into at this point in time, and getting some takes, some online takes that I've been seeing, and I think that is pertinent to share with you guys. And then also Is it glitching? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Let me know if you can hear me now. I got to fix my headphones in order to hear myself here. Let me know if that's okay. But should be a fun-filled live stream today. So trying to pull up the agenda here. And then we'll also just take a look at some of the, so I was able to record some of the JPS, the CEO of JPS's responses. And so we'll just kind of go through that as well, and I'll share those with you. Got them loaded up and ready to go. But as usual, let me know what city, what state, what country that you're chiming in from. I might change the setting. We're actually on 4K. That might be slowing things up. Let me know if that's the case here, because we should this. Let me know if it's okay, if it's sounds kind of buzzed. One second. All right, how about then? Nah, that's what it is. Okay. Good. The Wi-Fi is good. I just know that this our bandwidth cannot handle doing 4K, and I'm shooting 4K right now. So I might change that in a second, depending on what you guys are saying here. Better. Okay, good. All right, this is the last setting, and then we should be hopefully good to go now. All right. My mic check. Nah, there we go. I can hear myself. All right, now we're back. Now I feel better. If you can see me okay, then I'll just leave it in the 4K setting that we have now, and it's not glitching and anything like that. We'll just keep rolling with it. If not, I will adjust to shoot in 1080, which might be a little bit better. When I take a break, I'll probably switch it to 1080. Okay. So as I was saying, let's start there. Let's start with the JPS press conference. I think that is most relevant. And I'm gonna put, after this stream, I'll put up the clips that I took on Instagram, and also Facebook. So I'll put that up shortly. Shortly after we finish the stream, but since you guys are here, we'll just watch a couple of the clips. And I guess just to give some context, I'm not sure if you're aware, we have electricity now here in Negril along the beach road, which is great. It's amazing. We've been basically a little over 3 weeks without electricity. And as you all are aware, if you've been following and joining this stream, we're lucky enough, fortunate enough to have a generator here, Travelers, and also Starlink. And that's how we were able to be a fully operational, functional hotel before, during, and after the hurricane. But the majority of Negril did not have electricity. And the interesting thing is, and especially if you caught the first stream after Melissa, I was super confident. I was super confident that Negril would get back electricity like within a week or so. Because if you had drove the boulevard the week after Hurricane Melissa, it was in better shape than Beryl. Way better shape. Barely any of the electricity poles were down. Not a lot of trees were down in the road or anything like that. Beryl visually post Beryl looked a lot worse than post Melissa in Negril, particularly the beach road. West End definitely got hit a little worse than the Negril beach road, but nowhere near as bad as other parts of Westmoreland. So as I keep saying and keep reiterating, we got very lucky here in Negril. and in many respects, we were spared. Not to say that places in Negril weren't devastated. That's both people's houses, roofs, and also people's businesses. There were quite a number of isolated incidences, but not widespread devastation as you move southeasterly, going toward St. Elizabeth, the White House, deep into Westmoreland in the hills. Different story. So this week we got the electricity here in Negril on the Beach Road, not the West End. And so the press conference was kind of breaking down how we got here, like the JPS's assessment of where we are. And it seems like from the information like they kind of laid out to us, they have a really good understanding of what they're up against. And that seems to be very, very clear and apparent. And even me, the aid missions that I've gone out on here in Westmoreland haven't made it to St. Elizabeth as yet. I plan to go this week, actually. Haven't made it out there yet. But what they're saying in their reporting in the presentation that was done today, it is in direct alignment with what I've been seeing myself. And they understand what they're up against. The insight that I got was like really how much harder it actually is. And so there were places where they were completely cut off because JPS, that is, and then couldn't get to because of water and flooding. Like the pictures, the drone shots that you're seeing, you'll see electrical poles that were down, and they'd be in water on a thoroughfare, like on a road, and it looks like you need a boat to get through to that. Obviously, that'd be very difficult to fix and to get through, and just showing like the destruction, and it just really at least made me understand, like, man, this is crazy. And the CEO, Hugh Grant, he was just picking making us know, and I think this is just important for everybody to know, like people who are living here, people who are watching abroad, like that this is like this is like a once in 100-year storm in its intensity and its destruction, the pace, the slowness in which it hit us, but also the direct hit aspect of it, and as we are still kind of analyzing, and weather experts are analyzing how powerful this storm, like this thing broke so many records. And he was just emphasizing that the infrastructure that we have in place wasn't made for this. Like, even he was saying the light poles were built and installed for up to a category 3, not a category 5. And he kept emphasizing that. And I think that's very, 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 very important for us to understand that this is a historic storm. And this should be really, and I know it's frustrating for everybody, especially if you're in it. It's very, very, very frustrating, right? Extremely, extremely frustrating. And I empathize with that. But it also, I think that it's important that we have to maintain patience and realize, like, this isn't any regular storm. This isn't a Cat 1, Cat 2, this is a Cat 5, and it's just like, and I really appreciated him explaining that. And I didn't look at it as like an excuse. Like, he didn't, it wasn't, it didn't come across as he's trying to make us feel sorry for him or make us feel sorry for JPS or coming to us with excuses. Like, I didn't get that. I didn't get that feeling from him. I didn't get that feeling from his colleagues in the presentation. They were very, very transparent, even in the Q&A part, which we'll get to. I also, and I think it's important, especially for people who are watching this, who have been away for a little bit from Jamaica and haven't necessarily lived here, or maybe even lived through a hurricane. But I can speak from my experience in being here 19 years. This is such a different JPS than the JPS that was here when I moved here. Extremely, extremely different. And it has turned into, over the years, and especially now more so than ever before, of a company and its leadership that is not afraid to speak with the public and get in front of the public. And I remember when I first moved here, JPS was horrific as a service provider. It was horrific in terms of the dollar value you get for what you pay on a monthly basis to what you're receiving. And trust me, they have a lot of work to do, and I think they recognize that about themselves in respect to lowering bills, providing high quality service. But we'd have a storm or an outage or a storm that would cause an outage, and the storm would be like a fraction of this, not a direct hit to Jamaica, and we'd still be out for so long. And there would be times where we would be out, and we'd be out for just days for like just no. Well, I'm sure there was a reason, but there was never given a reason given to us here in the grill or us as hoteliers, and we just be out of power for days on end with no explanation, nobody telling us what's going on, no storm, no nothing like that. It would just be out. And this is like early 2000s for me. And now they have done such an incredibly much better job of communicating with us, the community. They're not afraid of us. They're not afraid to answer the hard questions. We even have a key account holder manager for our area, Kenroy Williams. He's been doing a phenomenal job. He's telling us what's going on in the community, the Chamber of Commerce, the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. He's in different WhatsApp groups. And I'm sure they have these types of people, these key account holder managers in every single area, that if something's going on, something's wrong, something's not right, you have somebody to reach out to. And we've never had that before. We've never had that before. As crazy as that sounds, we never had a person that we can go to that we feel would advocate on our behalf as JPS customers and go back and give the powers that be the feedback that they need to make better decisions and be better service providers. And so when I look at this storm and how they've prepared, and I was able to speak with the CEO afterwards, and I think a lot of people don't know this, and I'm going to get him on the podcast for sure. He's going to come on the podcast. We had a great conversation afterwards. And the thing, he started last summer, either right before or right after Beryl, just coming into this. And a couple of notable things about him, which I think are very, very impressive and also very unique. And I would also say, like, kind of makes us very lucky to have this gentleman at this point in time in the history of Jamaica and where Jamaica stands. And I feel like I luck in so many ways. So one, he is Jamaican, and he's been away for 25 years. So he's working for Con Edison for 25 years. So Con Edison, for those that don't know, is a New York City-based electrical provider. If you're from NYC, everybody knows Con Edison. And he has 25 years I believe 25 years experience at Con Edison, like multiple decades. And he's brought that to Jamaica. And what he also did, so he is familiar in dealing with this, was there during Hurricane Sandy as well, got them up and running, 1, 2, 3 ABC kind of thing. And he's able to bring his Hurricane Sandy experience to what's happening here with Hurricane Melissa. The other thing that he told me was the preparation, and maybe some OGs out there can correct me, but I don't know. I've never, at least at the time that I've been here. So, I was going to say, I don't know if in the history of Jamaica's storm preparation, this has happened where before the storm comes, we bring in overseas help, the overseas linemen. It could have happened before. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it before. And he was preemptive in doing that because that's what they did in New York. If a storm was coming, they brought in linemen from other states and other areas that would sit and be ready by the key power stations and key substations, that after the storm passes, they're ready to go to work right away. They're not waiting to fly people in and bring people in. And so I thought that was very genius for him to do, to bring these folks in beforehand. And then he brought in the COO, Chief Operating Officer, Lance. I don't know his last name. And he also has many years experience in Con Edison and stuff that they're doing and stuff that they have done before in the past. And they were just kind of telling me about their history. And It was so awesome because what he also explained to me is that usually like a country like say in the Caribbean who has been devastated by a storm, maybe not of this nature of this magnitude, but anyway, they need outside help and they bringing say outside experts from say the United States or some other first world country, let's say. And the country who's been affected by this storm doesn't necessarily have the experience to kind of get things going as far as the electrical grid goes. And so they would come in and essentially take advantage of that country and tell them what to do because they are novices or they don't know, or maybe you're saying, oh, hey, these guys are from Texas. They must be better than us here in Jamaica and they must know what they're doing. And so he was saying with his experience, they can't do that. They can't come in and take advantage because of his experience and his background as an engineer and in working for Con Edison, which is like one of like the top electrical grids in the entire world, as a matter of fact. And I thought that was again a huge, huge, huge advantage. And so, other things that I like that they're doing, for those that may not be aware, is that they have brought in, I think it's 70 vehicles of the forget what they're called, but the electrical vehicles with the buckets, I guess they're called bucket trucks, and then various different types of trucks actually to come in to get the system back up and running much faster, and then bringing in an additional 300 linemen, I believe, to address the problem. And so all of this is like super, super unprecedented, like never ever has been done before. And it's awesome, awesome to see and awesome to witness and awesome to have this level of commitment and this level of we got to get this thing up and running as quickly as possible. And it's a lot, it's a lot, especially I've been kind of clapping back on some comments in the comment section on Instagram and on Facebook, and people are pointing out, and I think a lot of people like who haven't been here, they're like, how come this place doesn't have electricity? How come that place doesn't have electricity? Wine and Grill, why only the beach road? And if you haven't been to these areas and if you haven't gone out there and see the devastation, it's hard for you. It's very easy for you to be like, why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that? Like it is crazy to see. Like it is so much. It's so much. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the care package giveaway that we did on Tuesday with Throp-X as well shortly. But that was the first time I went all the way to White House, and that's the deepest that I've gone into Westmoreland. And then we went to Petersville up in the mountains, and it's just as far as the eye can see, as far as you drive, it's just devastation. Houses covered in from mudslides, landslides, trees gone, trees down, nothing in the road, thankfully. But you're just like, it's just over and over. And the more you drive, the more you see. The more you drive, the more you see. And you're just like, oh my goodness, like, how are we going to clean all of this up? And it's so like spread out. It's not like a city or, a little town. It's just like, it just goes on. It just goes on and on and on and on. And people are failing to realize and appreciate just how just huge this thing is, like huge, like just widespread. And, to think and believe that electricity should be up and running less than a month after this historical never ever happened, never ever occurred in the history of history in Jamaica, that it should be up and running. I'm amazed, given what I've saw, that these other places have got electricity at this point in time, because it's so much. It is so much. It is so much. I don't think these people are lazy. I don't think these people are incapable or anything like that. I think they are. My feeling is they're working very, very hard to get this up and running, and I personally, sincerely appreciate their level of transparency, openness, and their communication. And I think we should all applaud that, especially going back to back in the day. And this is JPS, right? We know the history of JPS. We know and understand and appreciate the relationship between JPS and the people of Jamaica. This company I won't even go into the stereotypes, but I feel like things are changing and have been changing. And going to this press conference, talking to the CEO myself, him taking the hard questions very respectfully, answering them straight up. Like, again, I didn't get a feeling of BS, and my radar with that stuff is pretty good. And it's moving along, but it's patience, right? And it's easy for me to say, especially like I didn't have electricity a couple of days ago. We have electricity now. It may be looked at it like, oh, it's easy for you to say you have electricity. Up there's like everywhere's not going to get electricity back at the same time. That's ridiculous. Somebody's going to get it before the next person. When I think let's say Trelawney got back electricity, I wasn't sitting here in the grill and saying, "Oh, how come Trelawney got electricity back instead of the grill?" No, I was happy for them. Like very, very happy. And if Sav got it before us, I'd be happy. Like I'd be like, all right, things are moving, things are happening, things are progressing. It's not like things are staying the same. And it's important that we celebrate the wins, and it's important that we recognize things are happening and things are inching forward. And that's what it's going to take. Like everyday progress, little by little, little by little. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen for everybody at the same time. That's a ridiculous train of thought, like ridiculous, ridiculous train of thought. And I'm seeing and hearing that. And even it's just so stupid. I don't even know. I guess I got to say it. People are saying like, even in a community down the road, there was like, even along Norman Manley Boulevard, there were lights came back on. I think it was Thursday. What's today? Sunday. I think it was Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, and it was patchy. So the boulevard had power, but then some places and even some properties, half their property had power, half didn't have power. They were getting it going, right? And there's this so silly, very extremely silly comments and just mindsets like, oh, this is politically motivated. I'm not getting power because of politics. I'm just like, wow, like this is just incredible. That people are thinking like that, and that's what it is. And it's like, man, we really got to get let go of some of this stuff. I never thought it was politics when, parts of the northern parts of the country got electricity before we did. And it's just, I'm even sorry to be bringing this up, but it's just so silly, extremely, extremely silly that people are thinking like that and putting this energy out there. And I really feel it just holds back the recovery. It really does hold back the recovery, waste a ton of energy, and just so silly. So let's go to the comments real quick, and then I want to bring up some of these questions. All right, I have the video, so I will let's see if I can make sure we get our sound right here so you can hear. But I'm gonna hop to the questions real quick, and then not questions, the comments real quick, and then we will watch some of these videos. Okay. Shauna, what's going on? Thanks for chiming in. Thank you for being a channel member. Much, much appreciated. 43 members. 40. I'm tired. I'm tired. So, like, forgive me. I can't catch myself misspeak. 43 months of being a channel member. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Shauna. I really, really appreciate your support. As I see you, Shauna, we're gonna do the Patreon Throp-X Think Tank on Saturday. I know I missed it earlier this month. Forgive me. We'll do it this week, Saturday, our usual time, 12 o'clock, and I'll definitely put up a notice so everybody's aware, and we can make up for it. Dr. Pecan says, what percentage of hotels in Negril have reliable electricity? So I'd say the Beach Road. I don't know the percentage. I guess you could essentially call it half. The Beach Road, but the West End does not have. The Cliffside does not have electricity right now. Yvette says, I'm waiting on Sav Lamar and Paradise to get power. So great point there, Yvette. So he spent a lot of time on Paradise. So he explained, maybe let me bring up the map here. I think this will help people give people an idea of what we are dealing with. So I like the fact that he explained where what power is coming from. So there was a question that was posed: why does the beach road have power and the west end does not? But it wasn't asked so nicely, let's put it that way. And anyway, we get our electricity from the Orange Bay substation, which I don't know where it is. This is Orange Bay here. I don't know where the substation is. All right. So that is what powers the strip here. And so from how I understand it, I'm not an engineer or anything like that. From how I understand it, they set it up so we can get power as far as the roundabout. And if they were to go further than that, so this is Orange Bay, and let's say like our power comes from here, somewhere here, this is substation, and it provides electricity and has provide electricity all the way down to Negril roundabout. So right about here. And so I don't know where the cutoff is here as far as like no power being here. And so that's the strip, the Negril strip, beach strip, where getting power. Now, where the power is coming from to supply the west end, it comes from the Paradise location. So let me see. So it's all the way here. So Sav Lamar, if you haven't seen my video on the drive through of Sav Lamar, they're pretty bad shape. I haven't been there in about a week or so. I'm sure there's some improvement has been made there, but a lot of work to be done. Let's just say that. So this is Paradise. So this is the Paradise solar farm, essentially completely destroyed, unfortunately. And then I know the substation, power station is here, somewhere along here. I feel like it's right here. I don't know why it's not coming. Oh, right here, right here. Here we go. Right here. This is it. JPS public service company. There we go. So this is a power station. We drove past there on Tuesday for the giveaway, and just a lot of destruction there. I don't know when that's going to be up, but essentially from what I understand and what I was told today, this is what supplies the west end part of Negril. And so they are working on that. They are working on that to get that up and running. So I just want to bring that to you, Yvette, and to just manage expectations. And I haven't been given a timeline, or no timeline was said, but that was the reason for West End, and I'm assuming this is going to be the same reason for Sav. And he just gave the example, like, even though light poles may be up, or he said it doesn't make sense for light poles to go up and you can't supply like it because the source of the power is not in a state in which it can supply. And so, that was the explanation that we were given, and I'm just kind of relaying it to you all. And again, appreciate that. Appreciate the explanation. Let's see, Dr. Pecan, how are travelers booking for Christmas and New Year's? We have high occupancy. I don't know our exact percentage. I know some folks reached out to us for New Year's, and we just don't have the rooms right now. So if you're interested, I would say reach out. We may have a room here and there, but that continues to be high occupancy. What's going on, Jamaica? Rep from the World Bank praised Jamaica for the ways in which it is handling the recovery. She mentioned countries like Turkey, Indonesia, Philippines, and everyone, China. Let's go. Keep going here. Prince Diamond, Andrew Holness is the worst prime minister, Jamaican prime minister. All right, please back that up. We'd love some evidence for why you feel that way, Prince. Carol, is there no powers in Uptown Sav? As far as I know, there is no power in Sav at all in the surrounding areas, as far as I know. Wanda says, I'm so glad our lights are back on. They're doing their best. That category 5 was catastrophic. It was the most terrifying experience I've ever been in. I'm glad we did invest in solar lighting. Good stuff. Great thinking. Jamaica says, I saw a video of linemen working to restore electricity, and the men were from Grenada. Awesome. I didn't realize that. We had other Caribbean countries here. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. I think Cuba. I thought all the linemen were from America, but that's great that we have another Caribbean islands. Punty says, "What's up, Throp? This rebuilding will be a marathon, not a sprint. We need to build with better materials, zinc, etc. Might not stand strong enough to do it." I agree. They, I don't know if you saw like the prime minister. I would love your thoughts on this. We're not going to get into this. The container homes. We're not going to get into this yet, but I would love to hear people's thoughts on this. Dr. Pecans, what is the impact of the giant Hyatt hotel shutdown in Runaway Bay on Negro's hotel bookings in the future? Great question. I actually did an interview with TVJ today, and they asked me the same question. Not about a specific hotel being shut down, but just it's not that just them. I don't know if people realize this, but there are thousands. Maybe somebody can find this for me. I mean, I'm looking up hotels closed in Jamaica. All right. So there are thousands of hotel rooms that will not be online for the winter season, 25-26 winter season in Jamaica. I would love, excuse me, I would love to hear an economist opinion on this and on what impact this will have on Jamaica in the short term and long term, right? Because we got to think, the short term is obvious. Thousands of people that would and have planned to come to Jamaica over the next few months, they're not coming here. And even almost the next year. I forget which hotel, I think is I forget which hotel is not one of those big hotels. They're not open until August 2026, which is crazy, And I think it's Watson. If I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me on that. And so you have those people that are not coming in here, thousands of people that are not coming in here. They're not booking flights. They're not booking transportation. They're not going on excursions. So the economic rippling effect you're going to feel that immediately. There's just going to be less people here, less dollars circling the system, less tax revenue being collected by the government, right? And then there's the medium to long-term effect, right? And with the medium to long-term effect, there is the psychological reputation that people have and think about in their minds about Jamaica in post-Melissa world. And then there is you lessen, and like kind of stick with me here, right? You lessen the serendipitous interactions that would have occurred if those people were to come here. So let's think about this, and I know this may be, fluty tooty kind of thing, but let's think of like long-term relationships will not have been fostered and started. Friendships, possible business deals, you name it. You know what I'm saying? Those types of interactions would have normally took place that obviously we couldn't like anticipate or predict or anything like that. They won't be happening and they won't be taking place. And so I think there is going to be, and then also like eyeballs, right? I'm sure there is a certain percentage of people who come to Jamaica every year, and it could be less than 1%. It could be like 0.5%. Like, let's say that I'm sure it's more than this too, right? But let's say that there's 0.5% of people who come to Jamaica for the first time, fall in love, like die hard. They become die hard Jamaica fans, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that I've never been here before. I'm coming back in 3 months from now. I'm making this an annual trip. I got to bring my girlfriends down for this. This is where I'm doing my wedding. This is where I'm doing my bachelor party.
I gotta go see the rest of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you lower the amount, the percentage amount of creating that opportunity of to create that feeling for people, right? And so that has to play in to like the future economics of Jamaica in a big way. And then let's get into the staff, right? Let's get into the team members. Like now we have thousands and thousands of team members in the hospitality that no longer from one day to another don't have a job, in addition to they're probably already facing their own challenges at home post this storm, especially here in the West. I'm sure in Montego Bay as well. I know a lot of people, personal friends, that still don't have water and power in Montego Bay. I know that's not talked about a lot because of what's happening here in Westmoreland and then also St. Elizabeth, but they're also dealing with their own struggles of this storm. But then to add insult to injury, the place that they're working at is not opening for however many months. And so this is like a multi-layered, just kick in the stomach, and that is going to have rippling effects that are just incalculable. But there is some part of it that we can say and just extrapolate, like, okay, all of this is happening. That's going to equate to this. And we know the economy is going to be lowered. There was even an article, I didn't read it, I just saw the headline, that we were projected, our fiscal rating was projected to be, I forget the language again, I'm super tired, to be growing, let's say, but they have put it at stable because of what's happening and what's going on here. And so, it's the effects are real. The long-term effects are real. And again, the psychology of how people look at us and how the world is viewing us is very, very real. And it's going to be interesting what's to come, going to be interesting. And then the second part of how I'd like to answer this question, Dr. Pecan, is how it affects the grill, right? These large hotels, again, thousands of room inventory. I say, and this is how I answered it, like on TVJ. I said that this is, yes, it's an opportunity, but I look at it more so as a responsibility, right? And there are folks that are still going to come to Jamaica, and perhaps a certain percentage of those folks whose hotels were canceled in Montego Bay, and they normally go to XYZ hotel, but they're closed because of the hurricane. I'm sure a certain percentage of them are going to be coming to Negril. They're going to be going to Ochi. They're going to be going to Port Antonio. And while our tourism colleagues are down right now, we have to step up to the plate. The ones who are open, the ones who are spared, and we have to give the best Jamaican hospitality that there is. And we'd be doing that anyway. But to me, the stakes are even higher, right? Because there is less choice, there are less options, and there's a certain percentage of those folks who are going to a place that they didn't intend on going, but still have the conviction to come to Jamaica in spite of being inconvenienced. And so our responsibility is very, very high, because we know our hotel colleagues would love to be open, and they had every intention of being open in December to welcome guests and to welcome people to Jamaica for the first time, for the 10th time, for whatever time that they've come to Jamaica, and they're unable to do that. And like, that's the way I look at this, is like, at us hotels, especially here in Negril, it is a huge responsibility that we have to take very, very seriously. And it's something that we have to protect. And it is an opportunity. Let's not be fooled. Let's not kid ourselves. It's an opportunity for Negril. It's an opportunity for small hotels. And I was saying this last week. It's just interesting and fascinating that this is what's happened, that we have been not unaffected, but far less affected than our larger all-inclusive hotels. And I went through last week with my whole theory with that in terms of the design and setup. But nonetheless, we are less affected than those hotels, and we are just in a better position to accommodate people who want to come to Jamaica, people who want to come to Negril, and we're ready for them. And that's why I was telling TVJ today, like, we are ready for them. We are ready for you. We are ready to welcome you. Travelers is ready. Negril is ready. And even though we just got power back, like, I know people are just kind of getting themselves together. Certain places that didn't have electricity for the last 3 weeks. But December, Christmas, New Year's, donkey race in February here in the grill, we'll be good to go. I know that. I'm very, very, very confident in that. All right, I'm going. Sorry, I've skipped a lot of comments here. I'm going to go to the bottom here. Sorry, I know this is not fair. Let's see. Jamaica says they will be returning in waves. The culture, the food, music, etc. Let's remember, only half of the country is affected. Recently saw a video, and Jack Sprat in Treasure Beach was already open. Exactly, and that's what I keep trying to let people know is that even up until last week, somebody DM'd me and asked me, is Negril destroyed? How is Negril? And Negril is fine. Honestly, Negril has been spared. We got very, very lucky. Very lucky. Because remember, this thing was coming direct hit at Negril. Direct hit. We got so lucky. And we were spared. And Negril, for intents and purposes, is fine. And as I've been saying with this, like, we have an obligation to the rest of Westmoreland. And we've been so many people in Negril, all of my friends, like all of my good friends, like every single, I don't know one of my good friends who has not hopped in, has not gone to volunteer at World Central Kitchen, are doing food distributions, are collecting items, are going to the store and doing missions and sending out food. Everybody, I mean, this has changed our lives. This has changed Negril's life. It's changed my life day to day. Everybody I know, every business owner, every hotelier, um, everybody, people who have restaurants have converted their kitchen. Everybody is hopping in. Like, this has changed how everybody's operating, because we know how important it is to, and the responsibility that we have, especially here in the grill, to the rest of Westmoreland. And I like, even when I go out on my missions, I'm seeing my boys out there. I'm like, yo, what up? What are you doing out here? Kind of thing. And it's just awesome to see. It really, really, really is awesome to see. But this is not gonna stop. This is not gonna stop anytime soon. Like, this is gonna be continuous. As somebody said in the comments there, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And all of us are here to stay. All of us are here to make sure that this continues, and we continue to provide aid, as much aid as we possibly can. Diana says, my sister and I are diehard Jamaica travelers. I visit yearly. See you January 6th. Awesome. Charlie's Place Rentals. We need to get the Jamaica PR teams going. Yes, that's one thing. I'm just like, what are y'all doing? Like, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing, and that's something that we can control. Maybe they're working on content, maybe they're working on content and I don't know, but this is the time, like, get the messaging out. And I feel like, and I don't know if the Jamaican government feels this way, like they need to tiptoe around promoting Jamaica and promoting certain parts of Jamaica. But I don't feel that way at all. We hosted Throp-X this week, of the mini version of Throp-X this week. And the general feeling, we had the panel was called, it was basically a Negro leadership panel. And the message from everybody, these are like hard, I wouldn't say die hard. These are lifelong Negrilians, if you will, and multi-generational people who are born, grown in Negril. And they were just saying, we're ready and we're open, and it's so important that we get business up and running for the country. Like, very, very, very important. And I hope the feeling of the government isn't that they have to tiptoe around this. Of course, they have to be sensitive to what's going on and what's happening, as we all are. But at the same time, we need money in the system. Like, that's how we're going to rebuild. We need commerce. We need tax revenue. We need to get people back to work. I like, this is not being emphasized enough. I don't think people need to get back to work. Get them their food, their water, and shelter. And like, that's kind of the main point of this podcast, is like talking about the rebuilding phase of post Melissa right now. And right now, I feel like many parts of Westmoreland have a predictable source of income, predictable source of food coming to them. And now we need to make sure we get roofs over their head. And I think that's the phase that we're in. When I went out on Tuesday, people very, very appreciative of the aid packages, especially when we went up into the communities and down the lanes. Extremely appreciative, very, very thankful, especially with tarps. People still need tarps like crazy, tents, sleeping bags. All of that is very, very helpful, and people appreciate it. Um, so once people have a roof over their head, then they can start coming back to work, and getting people. And that's the thing. We don't want people to, especially in mass numbers, to become completely dependent on aid for the long term. Aid is still needed. Let me make that very clear. Aid is very much still needed right now. I'm doing a mission later this week, and it's still needed at scale. Don't get me wrong. But I believe, my personal opinion is that we need to act as quickly as possible to get people roof over their head and back to working, back to whatever it is that they were doing before, to increase the productivity of the country. So important psychologically for people to wake up with that purpose that they had before the storm. Very, very important in my opinion. Super, super important. Quantities, thank you so much for the donation. Much, much appreciated. Haiti showed container homes aren't a quick fix. Heat rust, land, and cost issues. Jamaica should think twice. I mean, so quantities. I would also ask, like, what would be an alternative to that? What would be a suggestion instead of the container homes? And put it in the context of, we need things to happen quickly, within months. Container homes in Haiti seem to I don't know if it's the same comment, but anyway, container homes in Haiti seemed fast and modern, but heat, like Jamaica, salt air, logistics, land issues, and culture made them unlivable without costly upgrades. Then they weren't cheap or scalable. So what alternative suggestions do you have of that? And I think, I don't know if so I know they said container homes. My alternative to that would be, like, what about capsule homes? I don't know if you all have seen those before. I'm for container homes. I'm for capsule homes. This is something that I was actually looking to invest into, 2-3 years ago. I just didn't have the capacity to do it. But, like, when you did the numbers, I had the business plan. Like, it made so much sense. Excuse me. It just made so much sense. The numbers made sense. And I know there are some capsule homes already in Jamaica. I'm just teeing some up here for us to kind of take a look at. Let's see if I can bring this to the stage here. So these are like some capsule homes. And I don't know what they're made of. They look like, the videos that I've seen on them is like awesome, like really, really, really awesome, super modern, has like all this technology, all these amenities within it, shower, toilet. Let's see if we can watch this real quick. I don't know what this video is. Okay, sorry about that. And yeah, I watched. I'm sure you all have seen this. Like, you see communities that are built out with these capsule homes. Whether I don't know if they're like hurricane proof or what they are, but like $9,000, I think it's worth the gamble. And especially with, that's what 100 and, let's see what that is in Jamaican. That's 1.35 million Jamaican dollars. Get him in here. Get him in here. I mean, this to me is worth a temporary fix, and then some of them look just like, okay, I would live there. And I don't know if that's what's also included in the container home the container home suggestion, not even suggestion, solution at this point, because the prime minister, for those that aren't aware, the prime minister said that 5,000 of them, they've ordered 5,000 container homes, and they'd start landing in Jamaica in January. So I don't know. I think this is a great alternative, especially like, you can't tell me that they're not better than the shacks that people were living in before. You like nobody can convince me of that. Nobody. Nobody can tell me that the container home is worse than the zinc roof plyboard 2x4 walls that they had that was on a concrete slab with unfinished floor. Because that's what I'm seeing a lot. That's what I'm seeing a lot when I'm out. And so to me, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. And yes, we should learn from other nations and other places that have done this. I think that's very, very important. And I don't think we should have the mindset that, oh, we're going to be different because we're Jamaica. Like, no, 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 no. We need to learn from other places, and we have to be humble enough to do that. And if it didn't work, why didn't it work? The argument against this that I've seen, the most viable one, is that it's not a long-term solution. So it was more so like, be careful of a short-term solution turning into a long-term solution. And that's where it kind of turns around. So I think that this is a good idea to get a roof over people's head, and a roof that was better than what they were living in before. These capsules look amazing. They look amazing. And I don't know if this is what they're doing. I don't know what the container home that they're bringing in looks like, but I think it's better than what they have now. It's better than what they had before, at least from what I was seeing, what I've been seeing on the road. Let's go to comments here real quick. Earthquake is predicted for February. If that is the case, how would those homes hold up? I never heard. I don't even know that we have a technology that can predict earthquakes. I could be wrong on that, but as far as I know, it's not like the market, right? It's not like, oh, we have an earthquake season like we have a hurricane season. I could be totally wrong, but I've never heard of that before. Linda says, but the Jamaicans up in the mountains may not afford this. Their homes were shacks. So I might be taking your comment out of context here, Linda, but they're doing like NHT loans, and they're doing creative financing with these container homes. And I think no matter what, that we need as a country, like, and with building codes and everything like that, we need to move away from allowing people to live in those sorts of shacks, as you say, and like I said, we did Throp-X on Wednesday, one day of panels, and we had an architect on, Hugo Matthews, and he was, because I was saying like, hey, we need to get away from the zinc roof board houses, but he made the case that, like, look, there were board houses that survived Hurricane Melissa. They were just built properly, and I was like, okay, better than I do. So it's not completely out of the question to have people have and live in board homes if they are constructed to code and built properly. So I say that to say that, building with lumber may not always be a bad idea. I think how it's constructed is more important. But I think the main point here is that we do not want to find ourselves in a position in the future where we have mass destruction because of poor architecture and just poor construction with homes and stuff like that. So I think we all want to move in that direction. Norm says we need to build for performance. Absolutely. Noel says the Barbados government used to lock up prisoners in those container homes. Prisoners say that it was punishment. Hot, hot, hot. Yes, but that's like a container, right? Remember, people seek these out. Like, you can't say that this is a bad solution because people are already, before the hurricane, have been buying in Jamaica, have been buying container homes and are living in them right now, right? So there's a way, and like having an insulated structure with AC and amenities is very different from a container that you put prisoners in. I will even give you an example with us here at NEAT, Negro Education and Environment Trust. We did, I think my dad could correct me on this. I think we did 17 container libraries. And what we did, this was early 2000s. There were many schools throughout Jamaica, especially here in the Western region, that didn't have a library. And we were looking for a solution to get library. So this is a computer and library. This is a computer lab and library. And we were able to get a grant. Oh my gosh. I think it was from the EFJ, from the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica. We were able to apply for these grants for $200,000 grants, Jamaican that is, and that allowed us $200,000 back then went a lot further, but that allowed us to buy a container and retrofit it because they couldn't grant us funds for building and construction. And so we found a little bit of a loophole. Hey, this is not building construction, this is buying a container. And then we would convert the container into a library and deliver it to the school. So it's different schools. So there's multiple schools that have these container libraries that we have donated over the years. So, and my point is it works. Obviously, kids and people are not living in these libraries that we created, but they were usable for the purposes of education, right? And so, as we just saw with the capsules, those are awesome. Those are I would live in that, and that's what I was like. Look again, I was looking at that as a viable business here in Jamaica. So it's possible, it's possible, very, very, very possible. All right, let's keep rolling here. Lisa says, "Will the government offer assistance to purchase?" Yes. So the prime minister said some people will get it for free depending on your situation. Some people will pay, but I think that's, and this is kind of going into the economic side of what we're talking about today. And I'm going to scroll down right to the bottom, so I want to hear what people's comments are on this. I say that we do not want to become and grow into a nation of giving people things for free. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't help people. I think we're doing a good job of that now. But there is, to me, and I've learned this from even running my own nonprofit, my own family's nonprofit. It's so important to get people buy-in, to be a part of the solution that they are going to be benefiting from. Some level of buy-in. It shouldn't be this handout. And we don't want to create a society that is dependent on government. We don't want, at least I don't think I want, and I would love to hear people's thoughts on this. I would love, I wish there's a way I can get somebody on here who has a completely different opinion from mine so I could perhaps learn from them on this. But just me like looking in the comments, especially with this container home container home solution in these comment section, like so many of the comments were like, they should give it away for free. They need to give it to the people for free. What does that do for you? And what does that do for society where the government is just giving you this home for free, like without you putting anything into it, any sort of sweat equity, any sort of down payment or payment system over time, whatever it is that makes it feel that you have earned it. And I feel like it's a dangerous path to go down where you have your populace that becomes, or at least a large percentage of the populace that becomes dependent on the government. And I think that's dangerous for both the government and also dangerous both for the populace, because and this is an extreme example, right? If you're just constantly expecting and waiting for the government to say feed you, and I know this is extreme example, extreme example, right? It's feeding you. Then you're also putting yourself in a position for the government and that source that's feeding you to take that away and to control you. And I'm getting the conspiracy theory here, I know, but that to me is where you can head down. And to me, it should be, I feel like it should be more about empowering the people than anything else, instead of making them dependent on a source, and it's going to be different for different people, obviously children, retired people, old people, but like working, capable, young, middle-aged people that have a brain on them and that are capable of working. That's a different situation. That's a very, 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 very different situation. And I don't think it's in our best interest to create the foundation of playing into that mentality. And it's just something that I think is very, very, very important that we are aware of, and that we could be creating this. Because I'm also seeing this, like, again, I always talk about these chat groups that I'm in passing, and I see elements of that in these chat groups where it's just like the government, the government, the government. And I'm just like, what is like, it just dawned on me last week. It's just like, you blame the government for everything that is not going your way, that you don't like, that is wrong in your life. You blame the government. And to me, by doing so, you're further empowering them, and you're further taking power away from yourself. And this expectation that you build, that the government should do everything and do this and that, and you sit on the sidelines and do nothing to contribute to the forward movement of the country or your community, mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. And that is a big problem. I could tell you that's a big problem here in the grill, where so many people subscribe to that mentality and to that ideology, the government, the government, the government. And maybe it's my Americanness, maybe it's me growing up in a capitalist country where, and especially New York, ain't nobody helping you in New York. If you're gonna think, yeah, we have a lot of social programs, and like, don't get me wrong, we have that, but it's like, it's such a, New York is such like a dog eat dog city, and then American capitalism is just like on another level in terms of making it. And just in New York, like, as they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, because it's just like that hustle, like people going out creating opportunities for them. If this door closes and this door closes, I'm gonna kick down that third door. I'm gonna figure it out. And the context in which I'm saying this in these chat groups, these are not poor people. These are not impoverished people, and I don't want to be insensitive to those who may not be in a position to help themselves and may not be in a position to create opportunities for that. But we want to put them in a position to create opportunities for themselves. These are folks who are very, very capable, very, very capable. And so that's who I'm speaking to when it comes to these dependencies and this ideology that I continue to see in the comment section, and I continue to hear, even in my community here. And it's, to me, it's just so dangerous. And I think it holds the country back. It really, really does. And it just shouldn't be. And like, I just don't understand how you could possibly have the mindset of that, of just being so dependent on the government and blaming them for everything. I was just like, I couldn't do that. I take so much personal accountability for anything that happens to me, anything that happens to my business, because there's no benefit to blaming other people or to blaming other entities. Because at the end of the day, I got to figure it out. I got to make my life better. I got to create the opportunity for myself. And even when I know it's not my fault, and even when I know it's the other person's fault, I have to blame myself. I have to go back and say, what did I do wrong to put myself in this position? What was the process and decision-making process, which allowed me to be taken advantage of. What did I not see in the discussion that I had with this person or this entity to allow them to have this leverage over me to get screwed over or whatever it is? I have to take personal account, 100% personal accountability. And these folks do not have that about them. And it's like, I don't get it. And it's like, I got to stay away from that. I got to stay away from that pessimism. I got to stay away from that negativity. And this is not the type of ideology that we should be putting into our young people's minds. It's not. I cannot see it being beneficial. I cannot see it being beneficial where the first, the primary thought and approach is to put your hand out. It's to like, what are you doing for me, government? What are you doing for me, XYZ? It's like, no, we got to get out there and do it. Like, and then, and I feel like there needs to be like a national campaign that is rallied around that more so than anything else. It's like, we got to pick ourselves up. We got to help ourselves get out of this. So yeah, I know I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Shauna, to your point about being cautious of people potentially becoming dependent on a system, book recommendations when helping hurts, how to alleviate poverty without hurting. Yo, that sounds like exactly what I'm talking about here, Shauna. You hit it on the head. Hold on, let me see this. Let me just take a screenshot there. Thank you for that. Let's keep going here. Throp, people have been helping themselves from day one. Yes, absolutely. I'm not talking about, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the storm. It's more of a mindset. It's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, like, trust me, I've seen that already, even with our staff, like, who have lost their homes. Like, they already start putting together, like, hey, I need a hammer, I need this. We're seeing that widespread. Don't get me wrong. We're seeing that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people who were not affected by the storm. This is who I'm talking about here. So please don't misplace what I'm trying to say here. Let's keep rolling here. Wanda says Jamaicans are very capable of temporary support that focus on immediate crisis to stabilize an individual or community until the region self-sufficiency. There should always be a cutoff date. It's unrealistic to believe anything else. Yes, and this is more of an awareness, right? And I don't think and believe that the expectation that it's going to be like this forever, right? And my point is in bringing this up to this level, that the people who were directly affected by the storm, that have lost their homes, lost their roofs, and don't have a constant source of food and water. Excuse me. My point in this is to quicken the pace in which we get them back to their normal lives. I think that's my case in point for those sets of people, and we want to get people back to work as quick as possible. On the other side of things, and this is, again, these are folks who were not as badly affected by the storm. These are not poor people. These are not disenfranchised people. These are capable people. Capable people with a brain on them, with means. Let's say it that way. And I'm more so arguing against the ideology of continuously blaming other people for perhaps their own misfortunes, or why things are the way that they are, instead of going out there and making and being the change. This is my arguments. I'm saying I'm not trying to re-victimize people here at all. I just want to be clear on that. Misty Ewing says, you definitely speaking a silver spoon perspective. They didn't get an opportunity to grow in America. That could be why you made it. Again, like, be very clear. Maybe I didn't make my point before this, Misty. I'm not talking about the people who are disenfranchised by the storm. I'm talking about people of means and people in these comment sections. So let's be clear. I've already made that point. That's not what I'm talking about. didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. You probably don't know me, know me if you're thinking that. Quantities, thank you again for for another donation. In the U.S., Habitat for Humanity builds self-worth by having future homeowners contribute sweat equity and sometimes a modest financial share during construction. I think that's a great idea. I think it's very, very, very constructive and also plays into just even a pride of being a part of this. And I think these things need to be streamlined and easy. And some people, and I know the Jamaican government, like there's a large part of our percentage of our population that are illiterate, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have dignity and they shouldn't have these rights and shouldn't be guided to this level of prosperity. It shouldn't be the case. And I know they have programs in place that help people with that. And so I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but I'm just making that point. Dawn says, OMG, you were born in a family, not on the riverbanks. Again, I think you guys are putting me in the wrong position with my point that I was trying to make. I hope it's been clear. I know these are earlier comments, so I hope it's clear who I'm talking about here. Noah says the government can use the Singapore models. The Singapore government models did build a home for citizens as long as you have a job. They automatically take money from your salary. I think that's a great. I think that would be great. Well, Nuff says it's not only Board House that failed. I saw several videos about houses in Edmund Ridge Estate, a new community with poorly built houses, disgraceful. I saw a lot of that as well. Bunty, we already have skilled people from Western countries and other Caribbean countries on the ground that can help with training of workers and leadership. Noel says, question, is Jamaica a socialist society or capitalist society? You know, I was asking myself that question. And I'm not looking at like by definition what Jamaica sees itself, but I'm more so looking at from an action standpoint. And I'm not sure. Can somebody answer that? Or I would love to hear anybody's thought on that. Is Jamaica a socialist society, a capitalist society? It's obviously a mix, there are a lot of great social programs that we have here in Jamaica, but to say like clearly America is capitalist, right? You look at like the Nordic countries, so they're socialist countries, right? So it's just I'm not sure from like an action standpoint what I put Jamaica in. A lot of elements of capitalism here for sure, but I don't know. What about the dome houses by Dwight Shirley and St. Thomas? Much cheaper than block and NHT approved structure. Great suggestion. They've actually been on the podcast before. Would love to look into that. I think that's really good suggestion. Great suggestion. TDC says, Throp, late to the party. Miss you guys. Hope you all are well. Throppers, thank you. Jason Hilly, in a third world country during a historical catastrophic event, people will need assistance, especially housing. It's not a handout assistance. Oh, again, I hope I'm clear. Yes, agree. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I want to be super, super clear on that. The aid is needed like crazy. I'm out there. I'm in the fields. I'm in these streets. We're doing it weekly. Aid is coming in every single day. We're doing it, and we're part of the solution. People need help. People can't help themselves. Don't get me wrong. What I'm talking about again is the ideology that and rhetoric that I'm seeing in a lot of comment sections of just blaming the government for so much, and even in the community here, blaming the government so much, and also depending on the government so much. And these are not people who were affected by this storm. So again, I hope I'll reiterate that over and over again if I need to. Travel so fun. I agree that you don't want a country where people are relying on the government for every single thing. That's why communism failed. But subsidies and grants help very desperately poor. Absolutely. And we need more of that. And I think that's like so important. Somebody earlier talked about sweat equity. Somebody earlier talked about Singapore and looking at their model. And even if you had a situation where, say, the government came in, did these, whatever the solution, whether if it's container homes or whether it's a proper home, the government came in like no money down, right? $0, no, not a single penny is being put down by somebody who qualifies for this. And they come in, but they have a job and they take out a nominal amount of money every month for that home. And then they also get the title for it, that they own it, right? It's their property, it's their home. And to me, I feel like the question is like, how do we get people at scale on the path of creating generational wealth? And to me, one of the main ways of doing that and creating this opportunity is through real estate. And you look at the majority of the people like that I saw on the mission that I did on Tuesday, very bad situations with their homes, especially. And the huge assumption here, but we talked about this last week, that a lot, and also we talked about it at Throp-X. This was a question that I asked, is that there is a large percentage of people that have been living on these lands that don't have their titles, and it's been in their family for generations, and they don't have it on paper to say that they own, excuse me, the Browns own this land and have owned this land for 5 generations, but they don't have the title for it. And a lot of Jamaicans fall into that. A lot of Jamaican families fall into that. And as we discussed in previous live streams, a lot of this goes back to slavery. A lot of it goes back to slavery. And through no fault of their own, they and their families have been put in this position. And so, how do we at scale, that is the important thing, at scale, get these folks titled? Because that is the opportunity that we're going to give these folks to to build generational wealth, because the mom and or the dad, or the mom and the dad, can now pass that title down to their kids. And then somebody in that family can use that title to borrow against and to create a business, or to increase the value of that house and that land, and perhaps in the future be able to sell it to a legitimate buyer, whatever. But my point is inducting them into formal society, if you will, and the formal real estate industry. It creates that opportunity. And so right now, they could be sitting on $1 million piece of land that they will never be able to extract equity out of because they don't have a title. And in no way and in no world should you be taking that land away from them, because, and then I also want to caveat this with saying that there is a program that already exists that the government has created that allows you to come in, that allows the government to come in if you have, and I don't know the exact, intricacies of this, but it allows you with proof of witness to say, hey, I own this acre of land, and these are my witnesses that can prove that I've been here for 5 generations. And they go through the process of giving you your title and giving that family the title. And so my question is, like, what kind of army of government agents do we need to create in order to just run through, say, Westmoreland? And I from what I understand, it's even worse in St. Elizabeth. It's even worse in St. Elizabeth in terms of families that own lands that are not titled. And so I think as a country, I think that's a huge project, a very important project to take on, because that is what's really going to help lift a significant portion of the population out of poverty, and from within a generation. Really, within a generation, you can do that if you can set that up. It'd be night and day for Jamaica, night and day for so many Jamaican families. Let's get back down to the comments here. Let's see. Once everyone issue that they have not paid tax on this land. I might be reading that out of context. Jamaica says, my house is built on my grandfather's land. The land is titled, but that title is long lost, the paper version, but it's in the system and at the tax office. I'll take it to the title in my name. Awesome. Why the Jamaican government do not do land reform and give these titles to those captured land from slavery days? I would say they are doing it. There is a program in place that allows you to do that. But I think like it needs to be done more and faster, in my opinion. And so like my question is like, how do we do this at scale? How do we get it done faster? And I also think in the post Melissa era that we're in right now, it's a great opportunity to do that. I think this is a great opportunity to get these folks titles, because you know what that also does? Because they don't have titles, and this is also a problem, and it's very, very important that we understand this aspect of the problem, is that you can't build a permanent structure on legally, let's say, you legally can't build a permanent structure on these lands, because in order to build a permanent structure, you need to get approved by the parish council and the building authorities, right? And so you can't supply your plans without having a title. And so it's impossible for you to really grow in that sense. And so extremely, extremely important, very, very important that we push this through. And then mind you, this program is free. I want to also state that as well. This is free. This is at no cost to you if you are one of these folks who fall into this category. It sounds like you're saying instead of blaming the government, we as a community must support each other and not wait for the assistance if it is taking long enough in times like these. Yes, and we also, and especially, and I speak this to the diaspora that are out there, right? And if you don't know this already, Jamaica, unfortunately, is one of those countries that you have to follow up like crazy. If there's a thing that you want done that you need to have in your community or for yourself and in business or your personal life, you have to follow up like a mad person. I mean, call, email, text, WhatsApp, call, like, and it's just, I almost say it's the way of doing business in Jamaica. It just is what it is. The latest example I'll give you is, and if you've been with me since the summer, you've probably heard me talk about this. I applied for a business credit card for my media company in, oh man, May or June. I kid you not. I kid you not. On Friday, and I know the follow-up game. I've been following up, sending emails, CCing the bank manager, all of the things. And I kid you not, on Friday, the business banker sends me an email. He's like, just letting you know, I'm submitting your application this week. I was like, this guy's an absolute joke. And like absolute clown behavior. I'm sorry, like absolute clown behavior. And this is private sector, personal, and like we have like all of our, like from Travelers, Throp Media, personal account, like we're good customers, put it that way. Clown behavior. We're in November. I'm probably not going to get this thing until 2026. I mean, lucky thing, I don't need it. You know, and perhaps that's why I haven't been on it. But this is just another example. Is like, and that goes for working with the government as well. That goes for working with the carpenter. That goes for working with the plumber. That goes for working with the contractor. It is what it is. And don't get me wrong, there are professional people that you will come across and find along your journey. And when you find those people, you hang on to them. You hang on to them because they're few and far in between. They're not dropping off the trees here. That's just is what it is. So my point is this, like, we have to recognize this and appreciate that, like, this is not a country where things just happen. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's the way it should be this way. I'm just saying it is this way. And we, the people, we have to push to ask for better. And I always say this with the banks. I hate to harp on the banks, but we're talking about the banks. I always say with the banks, the banks and the service that they offer to us as customers in Jamaica, they do it because we allow them to do it. It's just incredible. And I'm not talking about Melissa right now. And I'm not talking about Melissa and the long lines and the ATMs. We're in an unprecedented situation. So I give them a tremendous amount of grace here. And I'm not talking about now. But the par for the course of banking experience here in Jamaica is absolutely horrendous. Like there's no question about it. It's gotten better in some senses, going digital and everything like that. But overall, in the 2025 banking experience, going all over the world, and in third world countries all over the world, and first world countries all over the world, Jamaica for me personally, is like a low ranking banking experience. And it is what it is, right? And it is what it is. But my point in bringing this up now, it's because we, the people, the customers, allow this to happen, and we don't push back enough. And they're making, we've gone over this in previous live streams, they're making record profits here with subpar performance. That's just an aside. So how is that not the government's fault? I might be taking your comments out of context, Donna. Please enlighten me. Fame says Jamaica has an opportunity to rebuild the capacities of its people. It needs to rebuild its infrastructure and institutions. The disparity in the distribution of wealth is startling. Heirs property. I agree. And like, this is also another concern that I have of post Hurricane Melissa, is the increase in the wealth gap. And this is another thing that we need to be very, very careful of and be very intentional, being extremely, extremely intentional about how do we. I look at it like the timeline that we were on before Melissa and the timeline that we are on now. This is like a Marvel analogy, but the timeline that we're on now, that I believe we should be aiming for and be intentional that the folks who are affected by the storm, their lives should be better than it was before Melissa. Like that should be the aim. It shouldn't be like they're going back to that, or that like, take this, you should be happy and great. Like, no, our aim should be, how do we get them to be better? And like, to me, this is a great opportunity to do that with even the things that I was just saying. We can title people. I think this is a great opportunity to title people, get them to title, being able to build on their create generational wealth. And this is my mindset, and would be my mindset. How do we get them 2 levels above, let's say? And I think that's a better way to think of this and to look at this. Jala says, who's going to rebuild the homes that have been destroyed? Surely the government will have to help many of the families. Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm waiting to hear that as well. In terms of, we got the temporary container homes, but then also, yeah, what are we doing in these places? What are we doing? How is that going to go? Like, very, very important question. Very, very important question. Where is the best parish to purchase land? All right, we're going to leave that one there. Little out of context here. Quantity says, fastest temporary housing, find vacant homes in nearby hurricane-spared communities and retrofit them for displaced families, cheaper and quicker than other options. Where are those? Show me where those are. Please tell me. Please tell me where those places are. I don't know where you're going to find vacant homes to do this. That doesn't exist as far as I know. If somebody knows better than I do, please. Who MI says, is it the wealth gap or Jamaicans are not savvy risk takers? No, it's the wealth gap. It's the wealth gap. Because what would I say? Someone's earlier point that they were trying to make about me being growing up with a silver spoon in my mouth and having opportunities in America. I always say, and this is kind of the philosophy of my family, is that the greatest opportunity that we can give, especially to young people, to create opportunity for themselves, is education. And that is how you are able to, at scale, I think, get move a generation out of poverty, and it's through education. And I personally feel like we need to have education reform in this country. I know that's something that the government has been talking about, but we're just not there yet. And this is why me and my family focus so much on education and creating educational opportunities for young people. And we just need to do it at scale. And we see, especially here in the West, how disadvantaged that these young people are. Not only you have the disadvantage of the school itself in terms of the infrastructure, it's horrible. The getting to school is also horrible. The access to resources is also hard. And I want to say resources that I'm talking about pens, pencils, books for sure, but then also having the paying for uniforms, and then also being able to afford to go to school. And then you go back to the communities that they go into. It's just in many instances like a recipe for disaster. And if you don't have a a strong family, a strong leader in your family who's going to stay on top of the kid, that is, it's like your percentages of succeeding tend to lower if you don't hit all of the things that I just said, right? And we see it all the time. We see it all the time with our program, with our NEAT program. We have this tablet program, just for context for everybody. During normal times, that is, every Saturday we have this tablet program where we have about 25 students and 25 parents come, and we teach them life skills, and we use the tablet as the incentive. And like, this is kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier of buy-in. We used to give tablets and computers away for free, but what we do instead, in order to get this tablet, you got to come to this 8 to 10 week course every Saturday and have 100% attendance and pass the exams, and if we have exams, and then also be participatory and come to graduation. And then at graduation, you get the tablet to take home for you and your family and for yourself. But we don't give that tablet away for free. You earn it. You earn it coming 3, sometimes 5 hours on a Saturday morning, and you come to learn and you become part of this community. And so initially we were just doing students. And what we were realizing is that what we were teaching on a Saturday, one, it's not enough time spent with the students to change behavior and open minds. But they didn't have reinforcement in the communities, right? And they were going back to their communities that simply communities that weren't fostering the values that we were trying to instill in our NEET students. And they didn't have the role models, especially the young boys. They didn't have the role models that they should be looking up to and aspiring to in their communities. And they were only with us a few hours on a Saturday. And we were continuously having to course correct behavior and that sort of thing after each subsequent Saturday. So that's when we decided we have to bring the parents in. So either a parent or guardian has to come in, and they're also being taught in a separate classroom life skills. And then you have this reinforcing of values and teachings that we have on a Saturday going back home, because the student is learning and also the student is also learning and also the parent is learning. And then they're also enforcing and holding each other accountable. And these are the examples that I have learned, and me and my family have learned by going to the schools and being in these schools. And this is like kind of where my perspective comes from, and especially with the buy-in situation. And we have like many, many, many successful stories with our students that have gone through our program. And so, long story short, with your question here, is I don't necessarily think Jamaicans are risk averse and not risk takers. I think from a young person's perspective is giving them, creating, putting them in a position to create opportunity for themselves and make better decisions, and just pushing education like crazy, because there are just so many steps and challenges along the road to just getting into that seat at school and having, say, over an 80% attendance. And mind you, excuse me, here in the West, we have they split the days. So our kids and many of the schools here in the West, they're only going to school half the day due to overpopulation. So it's that many less hours that students are going to school and being under tutelage and being in a system and having regiments, and that compounds in a society, that compounds over time for the individual student, but then it also compounds as we extrapolate to the hundreds of kids in the school and thousands of kids in this area. All right, let's get down to some comments. Great says, Throp, I have contacted education executives in JA and none have ever responded. My experience are being multiple areas in education, such as budgeting, calendars, transportation, STEM, etc. No response. Like I was saying before, this is a follow-up society. Like you have to have this. I'm not saying it's right. They're great. I'm not saying it's right, but trying something once, sending an email once, making a phone call once in this country, it's just not how it's done. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You have to follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. I'm sorry that that's just the reality that's here. So that's like my advice to you. OMG, the silver spoon accusation that totally hurts. Some people have no clue and they need to be educated. I'm not sure if you're agreeing with me or you're against me. What I'm saying. Three says, in regards to education, the Jamaicans who left to rebuild Europe after World War II were not educated, yet we all know how much they achieved from so little. We need to work harder as well as education. Charlie's Place, Throp, what are your thoughts on insurance and what are your thoughts on apartment complexes in areas that were damaged? Apartment complexes. I'm not sure I understand the second question. Thoughts on insurance? I mean, yeah, you better get insurance. I know for like us here travelers, if you have a hotel, like you have to be insured. Well, public liability insurance, but we have certain key areas of our property insured, and I think it's very, very important, especially if you have a business, especially if you have a coastline business. Absolutely should be insured. It's very expensive here in Jamaica, very, very expensive, but very, very important. Super, super important. Anik Donnie said, Dion says, those who have always worked hard and hustled in Jamaica will continue to do so. So I guess this is very counter to what my point in saying, and I've been saying here, is that what I have also seen in Jamaica is so many people come from absolutely dirt poor nothing and have done exceptionally well here. What the common denominator amongst those people are, I'm not sure, but it definitely tells me that it is not impossible to do exceptionally well here. And I know people who have done that, born and raised, not with a silver spoon in their mouth, from some pretty harsh circumstances, and have done exceptionally well in Jamaica that they didn't go abroad to be successful. I'll even use, I mean, different time, but this is my personal experience. But even like my dad was like extremely like dirt poor. He grew up and he did it for himself, but he had the opportunity to go abroad, and that's very different. I think that that's also like a big game changer for folks. And I think this is like so important is to like, how do we get more young people to go abroad? Because that gives perspective. It's so important to get perspective. And like, this is, one thing that we've done here as well at Travelers is like, if we can give people an opportunity to go abroad and be a part of that process, I think that helps Jamaica so much as well. I mean, go and come back, of course, go and come back, get some skills, get some education, come back. But I mean, even doing farm work and just seeing and being in a different atmosphere, it doesn't have to be the United States, but like, I think just traveling alone just broadens your perspective. And I think that will do so much for our society, and I'm a huge advocate for that. Mhm. Let's see. Jamaica says government can build social housing complex apartments and then rent them out. Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you who you pay. Okay. Nancy's agreeing with me. Okay, thank you, Nancy. I wasn't clear. Thank you. Grace says I've been on this for 2 years, over and over. Man, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. I'm sorry. And try a different approach. Maybe try to go above this person's head. Whoever this is that you're trying to reach out to. But I would encourage you, don't give up. Please don't give up. Linda says you would think the government would build more schools. I'd say with what money? Like, I'm not saying that they don't like. So I think build school. Like, let me take that back. Yes, build schools for sure. But I think there are creative ways that they can do it. And I think one of them is using tourism as a leverage, right? And we have all these in the future, these and it's something to be thought. I'm not saying that this is the direct way to do it, but I feel that a discussion of this nature should be had with these mega hotels that are coming into play, right? And these foreign entities are coming into Jamaica and making tens of millions, hundreds of millions of US dollars off of the the culture of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica, as they should, and that's fine and no problem. But as part of that, and also to help their own sustainability, invest in a school, build a school for us, and then also contribute X amount of dollars into sustaining that school. And so, like, to me, that's like a creative way to do it, because I don't think the government really has the money to do that, because just the way like I understand the economy to do once, like, if you do a school, it had to be like crazy, crazy impactful, right? And I'm not saying not to or anything like that, but they don't got the money. They got to come up with some creative way to do it, maybe in a private way, privatize it in some way. I don't know. Throp says, but you are a product of American culture. Yes, I certainly am. Again, I might be taking that comment out of context. I am a product of American culture for sure. Let's see. All right, last few comments, and then we get on to the next subject here. Yolanda says, yes, you're right. They need to give back. Like China donated a hospital so hotels can create schools as part of the deal. Yeah, building an apartment complex for housing. Yes, I seen hotels. Um, I see Princess did this, right? And I think that should be a norm, because we're also like in a housing crisis here in Jamaica. So you're going to be making tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of US dollars here over the years. Build housing for the staff that's going to work for you. I think this would be huge. Who I am says we need to reform our tax collection methodology. Tax the rum bars. Everyone should pay tax in Jamaica. Absolutely. If we tax the rum bars, I think we could build a school tomorrow. Claudia says, okay, guys, they're talking. All right. Shireen says, yes, going abroad and getting a good education is great, but where the problem lies is that most individuals who don't return and improve their communities. Yes, I think a lot of people fall into that. And no. I hope people start seeing the light. I think a lot of people are seeing the light with Jamaica, and are seeing, obviously before Melissa, but I hopefully more so after Melissa than anything else, that people are seeing the light in terms of the potential of Jamaica. And I think it's a great place to live. I love living here, and I feel very grateful to call Jamaica, especially in the grill, my home. It fits so directly with my personality as well. And yeah, I think a lot of first generation American Jamaicans are seeing that. Like, I'm seeing that in my numbers. I'm seeing that in like the inquiries that I'm getting, that you're seeing more millennials look into moving here and investing in Jamaica, which I think is great and awesome. And also even the Jamaican diaspora. Like, we just had a conference this week with a bunch of people from all over the world with Jamaican descent who are trying to move back here and trying to retire here and try to have the latter part of their career be here in Jamaica. So hopefully things are changing in that regard. Shelly says, I'm not sure if this is true, but I've heard that the uh, foreign-owned hotels benefit from tax breaks, so they don't have to contribute to the country. That is a source of their income. I mean, they do get, they are incentivized. I don't know the exact deals that they get, but for sure they're incentivized to come here and to invest with different incentives. I'm sure tax incentives as well. But I also think that it's only for a certain time, from what I understand. Yvette says it's a great place to live. Yes. Um, by the way, who says, is the potential of Jamaica a bridge too far for Jamaicans looking to come home and invest? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think, oh shoot, sorry. I think, and what do you mean by bridge too far? Do you mean like a, from a, from like a cultural, like assimilating culturally, or like what do you mean by that? Or do you mean like financially? It's not like it questioning whether it's like a good investment. If you can just like explain that. Jamaica says a lot return, but we don't all want to go back to the community as our standards of living and mindset are different. I always recommend to consider that exact thought. That's very, very good. Very, very good. Erica says that's what we did. A group of my friends in U.S. adopted Green Island Primary School because our homeboy attended that school. We gave our time and financial resources. Awesome, 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 and great school to invest in and to adopt. Wait a minute says it's hard to ask a graduate to forfeit a good salary in foreign and come home to struggle. I mean, I see what you're saying. It depends on where you are, right? It depends on where you are, where your family is, where the opportunity is, right? And I say that, and I laugh because I used to very much, honestly, full transparency, I used to very much question whether I made the right choice to come to Jamaica when I first moved here. And I was 22 years old, just graduated college, and all my friends were getting their first business jobs, their first finance jobs. They were living the postgraduate New York City dream. And this is early 2000s, and I was here in Jamaica, and this, mind you, this is financial crisis, and I was also coming to Jamaica, as people have been talking in the comments about my Americanness. I came to Jamaica with my Americanness, very, um, I would say, entitled, and also, what's the other word that I would use? Entitled, and I mean, I guess even cocky in the sense that I I knew better. I felt like the American way was the better way. Put it that way. And if you're American, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if if you're here in Jamaica and you've experienced what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And so that made for a very, oh my gosh, I would say a very hard transition from New York to Jamaica. Like both of those. Like so, watching my friends get their first jobs, have an amazing time in New York City, and then also dealing with the culture shock of Jamaica, of understanding the culture socially, but then also the culture of doing business down here. And it was extremely frustrating. And then the third whammy in all this was the business here, Travelers, was doing terrible, like horrible. And it made me think like, oh, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur, just being constantly stressed, constantly looking for money, and vendors and the tax man constantly beating down your door. and calling you. And so it made for like just like a bad experience. And I always say this, and some people have already heard this story, this part of the story. I remember one of my homegirls from college. She came down to visit the hotel, and she was just like, which was this is like a year after being down here, and then she was just like, "Man, Throp, you're not the same Throp from U Albany. You're not the same Throp that I know." She's like, you don't look happy here." And I played it off or whatever, but I was like, I like as I look back, I think I was like depressed. Like, I'm not even kidding, because it was just so much like going on in my mind that I was just trying to adapt to and trying to understand, trying to fit in, and I wasn't, and trying to do a good job. And then the pressures of doing business here and having a business that wasn't doing well at all. It was like recipe for disaster. And so, I'm putting myself in, as you asked this question, wait a minute, I'm putting myself in the position of, say, a young person thinking about coming to Jamaica at 22, or straight out of college. And I'm telling you, being in those shoes, I'm just like, man, I could have a well-paying job. I had good grades in college, and not having to deal with any of this. You know what I'm saying? And having my own apartment in New York City, making a good salary, and falling into that, right? And falling into that life, and living the dream, so to speak. However, fast forward almost 20 years at this point, one of the best decisions I made in my life. And I would say the first half of the time that I spent and been in Jamaica was it's like it was a sacrifice. It was a huge sacrifice, and it was a sacrifice of life experience. It was a sacrifice of having fun. There's a sacrifice of fostering relationships and friendships that I've had over a lifetime at that point in time. But now, as a 41-year-old person that has been living here in Jamaica for 19 years, best decision I ever made, And I'm also countering it to when I was 22 and I was comparing myself, or comparing my not comparing myself, but comparing my career choice to that of my friends who seemingly living the dream. They always looked at me and says like, "No, man, you're living the dream. You being in Jamaica, being on the beach." Da, da, da." I was like, "Oh, you guys have no idea what I'm going through, right?" And so now it's like I appreciate, at this stage of my life and this phase of my life, I absolutely appreciate Jamaica so much more. Don't get me wrong, love going to New York. My mom is there, my auntie, cousins, family, everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I love visiting and I love going there. But this fits my personality, who I am, and where I am in life right now. And very, very, very happy with my decision. And then also, and this is where I would invite young people to think, especially young Jamaicans, particularly young Jamaicans who were born in Jamaica and have gone abroad, got their education, and then going into their career, and not even thinking about coming back to Jamaica, right? Is that I truly feel that I am contributing to helping to move my country forward. Like, I really do feel like that, and I really do feel I am making a marked difference in many people's lives, and also in the direction that Jamaica is heading in. And I'm just one person, right? And I feel, especially with young people, that they can do that too, especially they get their education abroad. Maybe they even do, a few years in corporate America, and they bring that experience back to Jamaica. Man, you make it's so impactful, And I'm not saying not just young people, but just anybody in the diaspora who's thinking about coming back. Like, it's so impactful, especially if you're a young person going into and furthering your career, or even becoming an entrepreneur. Extremely, extremely impactful. I feel like the more people that we can incentivize to come back and to move back and to contribute to society, to set up businesses, to work from here, work from home, I think is all the better for the country. I really, really do feel that way. Who I am says, Throp, what was your greatest? I'm assuming greatest fear to get over moving back to Jamaica. I so I never lived here as a kid. I was born and raised in New York, and I spent 3 weeks every summer in Jamaica. That was my experience. And then I grew up in a Jamaican household, right? So that is my Jamaican experience growing up. And the decision making process that I went through to actually move down here, it was knee jerk. I didn't think through. And I think that also having such a rough first first year or two transitioning to Jamaica. So I didn't really think that much. I really didn't think that much about it. And ignorance is bliss, as they say. And trust me, it was better than I didn't think, and I just leaped. Sia says the grill is the best place in the world. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Yolanda says, I think they need to look into bring Jamaica into the 21st century with the technology infrastructure. If the hotels want to build, they should invest in the country, not just their hotel. Agreed on that. All right, let's get to a few more couples here. Who I am? Do you feel insulated in Jamaica, living in a bubble? In a way, yes. In a way, yes. Like, and the bubble being like just a lot of stuff that's happening in the US. I would say like I'm in a bubble, and that sort of bubble, like not that I'm not aware, but I'm not in it, um give this example, right? I give this example of my brother. So my brother hadn't been this is like COVID time. So my brother hadn't been back to New York, say for years, say from like 2018 to say maybe 2022 or something like that. Maybe even 2023. Haven't been back, especially with COVID. And so when he went back to New York, he was like shocked. He was like, "Wow, you have mixed use bathrooms? Like, you excuse me, not mixed thinking real estate, mixed gender bathrooms?" And he was like shocked at that. Like going to New York City and like that being like a thing. And he's like, "Yo, this would never fly in Jamaica," kind of thing. And so in that and then but that's an extreme example, right? That's just like not extreme really, but that's like an example, real world example of like of being in a bubble down here. Like he's been down here all these years and hasn't gone up to New York for an extended period of time, and things changed, and you don't realize that you see these things in the news or Instagram or whatever, and then they go up and experience it. So yeah, definitely a bit of a bubble here, and it's not even in a bad way, I think. And when I think of the conversations that I have with my friends in New York, some things like I don't get, which is funny. I kind of don't get what the certain things that they're experiencing on a daily basis, and especially with, let's say, heightened tensions in the United States right now with certain things. And so I don't feel that, I don't feel that down here, and I don't have to play into it in any way. And I'm worried about, what's happening around me and my life in the grill, and especially things with Melissa. Life is different here post Melissa for sure. And yes, and maybe we were all in our own bubble, right? All right. Let's get a few more comments here. Man, do I speak any Jamaican? I'm gonna let the OGs answer that. Do I speak any Jamaican? Do I speak patois? It's a running joke on this channel. I'll tell you that. It's a running joke. Natalie Bent says, "Hi, Throp. Jamaica is a beautiful country. Nonetheless, the education system isn't fit for 21st century. Illiteracy is rife. The government needs to pay attention. The government lacks as innovation." Yes. And we talked about this earlier in the chat. It's like, yes, education reform is like so important, and it's not up to par. And I always think about how we are as a country when it comes to competition, and I feel like we're not as competitive as we should be and we could be. Boy, I want to talk about Throp-X today, but I'm dragging here. Like it's been a long week, long week. I'm sorry to make excuses, but I am getting super tired here. Been tired since I came on the podcast, but didn't want to miss the opportunity. We didn't even watch the JPS videos. All right, we'll watch one JPS video before I go because I promised it earlier. Gabrielle says, "I see women in men's room down here all the time. They say the men's room is cleaner." That's funny. Claudia says, I don't know. Lisa says, yes, definitely. Because America has closed its borders, new realities are setting in relation to immigration and opportunity for non-citizens. Jamaica rebuild and cultivate our human talents. Oh, I didn't even think of it like that. Okay, cool. Ponty says, how often do you go to Kingston? How long do you stay? It depends. If I have business there, I will stay. Like I was there for the for Heroes Day in October, like right before Melissa. So I was there for like almost a week. I was supposed to be there for longer to do interviews and press for Throp-X, but had to cut it short. But I really like Kingston. I really enjoy Kingston. I could live in Kingston for sure. The one thing that I hate about Kingston, which is so cliche, but it's the traffic. It's like it's unbearable for me. Like it's completely unbearable. But I love Kingston. I love the restaurants. I love the community, the sub communities and subcultures within Kingston. I love the working spaces that I can go to work at. I think Kingston is an awesome city. I really do. I think it's really awesome. But that's freaking traffic. Charlie's Place says, looking to do business in Jamaica, get an attorney. They will move the needle quicker to do things. Hope this helps. Yes. If you can, I would say if you can put that in your business budget, man, because and also like a pit bull of attorney as well. I think that's important. I think most attorneys, I want to say, I don't know if you agree with me, this Charlie, Jamaican attorneys, they understand how things work here, and like they know what to say, how to say it, and they know the follow up, and they are on it. They are on it. Like, and you will appreciate a good attorney down here. Who I am says, Throp, elaborate on Jamaican competition, please. So let's do competition and then also productivity, right? And we are, as far as like a high level skill set, right? We're not exactly known for anything. We're a good place from an industry standpoint. We are, I would say, if we were known for something, call centers, and I'm open to be corrected on this. Like, is it but we're not known for like say like a particular type of technology. Like you think of like India, you think of coders, or even Eastern Europe, you think of coders. Certain Colombia, you may go for like medical tourism, Thailand medical tourism as well. Sorry, my brain is like so slow right now, but you get what I'm saying. There is not this thing or this industry in which we are mass producing talent that goes into that industry that we are globally competitive at, right? We just don't. And I'm here to be corrected, but I can't think of anything that puts us in that position. Culture, yes, and this is stuff that can be exported for sure, like culture, athletics. Like we know this. We're top notch, top of the food chain in that regard. But as far as like something along the lines of from a general productivity standpoint, we don't have that. Reggae music, thank you. I see that. Yes, number one. But I would love for us to like have, and I know years ago, I know the prime minister was talking about like a robotics program and becoming this and that, and programmers and engineers. We just don't have that, and we just like I would love for us to focus on some element of that in terms of like at scale producing talented young people at this thing. I don't know what this thing is. Is it AI? Maybe, I don't know, but that's kind of what I mean. And then I always think from like an education standpoint is like, are our kids as competitive with the kids in America and China, like other Caribbean islands? And are they globally competitive in that standpoint? And because that also speaks to us as a country that we need to be competitive, we need to be economically competitive. And in order to put ourselves in that position, it comes down to our people. And so this is why I always say, like, investing in education, investing in our people, investing in our kids. That is the best way to create the best future for our country. And that's kind of in a nutshell what I mean by being competitive. Okay. SCP says watching a sunset in a grill is one of the world's greatest wonders. Time stands still. Yeah, missed it today. Donna Marie says, does Jamaica have an economic empowerment regulation for business? Starlink has been in J since 1122. Starlink is not officially available in South Africa due to regulatory hurdles. I don't know what you mean by empowerment regulation for business. I'm not sure what that means. Our stock market is known for doing a good job. A lot of African countries have been here studying our stock market system. Okay. But would you consider us like a financial hub? I don't. You know what I'm saying? And then also, would you consider us a hub for, I was gonna say finance bros, but for just people in finance, and I don't think we're having people like young analysts move to Jamaica to come and go work at the Jamaica Stock Exchange, sort of thing. But you're right about that. Our stock market historically has performed very well. Graham says, as Throp, as you're in the hotel business, how do you differentiate your competitive advantage, barring our human kindness? How do you compete with a hotel in Dubai? Great question. All right, I think this is going to be my last. You're asking some really good questions here. Um, it's my last question. I'm on fumes right now. So I would say it's without question, it's our culture, right? And I've never been to Dubai before. I have no idea. But I would venture to guess that when you go to Dubai, you are you're walking into an overabundance of wealth, and that's what you're experiencing when you go there. Like, this is my perception. I could be wrong. And when you look at how Dubai has positioned itself as a tourism destination, they use their they use their competitive advantage, and their competitive advantage is their money without question. And they created things in that part of the world that you would think was impossible. And they have to, because they don't necessarily have, I was going to say, the natural beauty in a sense. And I think a desert is beautiful, but it's not really habitable, right? And so they had to put all this money into this experience. And from what I've seen online and the many YouTube videos that I watch, it's like very, very beautiful. But it is, they created it. You know what I'm saying? Like they created it. And I'm not gonna say go as far as saying like it's fake or anything like that, because I haven't experienced it. But what Jamaica has, like, we didn't create it. It just is. It just is. And there is an authenticity to the experience of coming to Jamaica and to engaging with our people and to experience true, authentic Jamaican hospitality. That's unlike any place in the entire world. And that is our competitive advantage. This cannot be duplicated. That experience of hanging with the Jamaican, of eating our food and listening to our music and vibing to the environment that you're in, whether it's during the day or during the night, it's you can't replace it. You can't replicate it. Impossible. And then if you want to get into just the natural beauty of Jamaica that we didn't put any money into, that we didn't have to create, this is what God gave us. Again, you can't compete against that. The Negril Beach that we have here, always, constantly, regularly on the top 10 beach in the world list every year because it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a one of a kind experience being on that beach, on that beauty. And then you go into the mountains. If you love mountains, we have tons of mountains here. I love mountain living. I love spending time in the mountains. We have 100 and something rivers as well and waterfalls that you can go to and just be in nature and be within nature. And you can experience this all over the island. And the natural beauty of Jamaica is just unparalleled, unparalleled. And you couldn't pay to recreate that. Impossible. God is the only person that only one that can do that, only being that can do that. And so we're not competing against the four walls. That's not where our competitive advantage is. And what I mean by the four walls is like the Wiz Khalifa, right? Not Wiz Khalifa, the Burj Khalifa. The tallest standing residential building in the world kind of thing. And the Ferraris and the Lamborghini taxis that you can take, and police cars or whatever that they have, this abundance of affluence and all of that, all of that money and that luxury, in a way, it just doesn't compare to Jamaica. It's just not Jamaica at the end of the day. And it's not something that I worry about or that I concern myself with. It's more so like that's something that makes me like even prouder to call Jamaica my home and to have a business here and to have my family here. And I was even saying like the other day is like the one thing like I don't know how many other people like feel this, but like I really appreciate interacting with Jamaican strangers, like on any level. I'm talking about like going to the gas station in Clarendon or in St. Thomas or wherever, or at a restaurant or just in the road. It's just like, it's just always a vibe. Just always a vibe. I don't know how to describe it. I guess I got to sit down and then spend some time to figure out how I can articulate that feeling and that interaction. But it just makes me feel just very at home and this greater sense of belonging, I would say, and just interacting with just complete strangers in the store, a restaurant, in a community gathering, meeting Jamaicans that I haven't met before as well. I don't know. It's just hard. I can't even. I don't even know if I'm making sense. But that is something that I really appreciate about being here, and that happens over and over and over again. It's like it never sours. It never gets old. And I always have that to look forward to. And I hope that I can experience that a little bit more. Like after things with Melissa start to settle, and I can go out and explore a little bit more outside. Even the aid missions, like even that, it's not under the best circumstances, but it's just like I'm getting out there and I'm interacting with Jamaicans, and I don't know. I just enjoy it. I just appreciate it. I don't know. And again, it just makes me feel just at home, and again that just greater sense of belonging. All right, I think we're gonna call it there. I'm definitely I gotta go eat and get some rest and get ready for this great week we have ahead. Great week we have ahead. I'm not promising another live stream this week, but I will definitely do a recap of Throp-X by next Sunday. Let's say that. I will commit to that by next Sunday. I thought I would do today, but just got so tired. Just got so tired. It's been a long week and a long weekend here. Organic connection. Thank you, Shiona. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out a little bit later than normal here on Sunday. And hold on, I didn't thank CDH Education for being a channel member. Thank you. Thank you for being a channel member. Welcome. Welcome to the community. Appreciate you. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out. We will come back next Sunday. We've got some videos coming out this week for sure. And I wish everybody a great week ahead. And thanks for hanging. Thanks for chilling. Peace, everybody. Sorry. Peace, everybody.